Hi, everyone, and welcome to Ashley and Equality. Today's episode, I am talking to Kevin Tang, who is the creator and host of Amped Asia podcast. We're going to talk about representation, stereotypes, things like that. I'm really excited, and I'm also very excited because we're kind of doing it's a little later recording today, so I'm excited to show you all my lights and everything. Anyways, let's get right into it. Here we go. Hi, it's very nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you too.
Yeah. So congratulations on your podcast, Amped Asia. I know you only just started it like at the end of January, correct?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Just
But it looks
started.
yeah, but the feedback looks like it's been really great.
Hmm.
And your guests are really cool. So could you
Right.
tell me how you got started in this, why you decided to step
Hmm.
into this space, and what message you're hoping to spread and whatnot?
Right. So the our website actually started about 2006. So we have a website, ampedasia.com, that's been around since 2006. So the podcast was really just a way for me to keep continuing Asian American media, but in a different medium, which is the podcast medium. And I really like the podcast and YouTube medium, just because I'm a big fan of Joe Rogan and some other podcasters. So I just really wanted to get it started, and honestly, it was just a fun side project actually. So it just started from there. And then we're in quarantine or whatnot, so it was just a good side hustle to kind of start going with.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. I totally
Hmm.
get that. It's very similar to how I started this. It was more like
Hmm.
I mean, like I've never really done anything like this before, but like the reason I did it was because I was kind of already having these conversations with people, and it was just
Right.
kind of like, well, why not put it out there? And people and like my friends were like, I'd really love to hear that, like to hear what you've been talking about with other people, anyways. And so it was just
Hmm.
kind of like a way for me to um just kind of like spread whatever it was I was already doing like to a wider audience instead of just
Right.
having one-on-one conversations to have the one-on-one conversations and then other people like kind of letting them be like the fly on the wall.
Hmm. And did you just get yours started as well?
Yeah, I started mine at the beginning of January actually.
Oh, okay. So same time.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, like a few
Cool.
weeks before, but like, I mean, it's something I've been working on. Like, I didn't know exactly how I was gonna do it for a long
Right.
time. And then it just really, it finally took shape because I was like, I had been trying to, like, I had actually been trying to launch earlier in 2020, like, and
Right.
I was trying to do before the election. And then it was like, well, then I was like, and then it was so contentious that it was just kind of like, maybe I'll wait until after the election. And then it was the holidays. And then it was like, it was just never like the right time. And then finally,
Hmm.
like January came and everything kind of like ended, like everything finished. And it was like, you know what, this
Hmm.
is just now, like, let's do it.
Yeah, no, that's actually the same story as me because I was super busy last year.
Hmm.
Because my day job is as a software engineer.
Okay, cool.
So I started my own startup. So I'm the engineer for my own startup. And yeah, that took pretty much all my time. But this year, we're actually in the creator space, our software.
Okay.
And so I wanted to get into it a little bit more just because I wanted to understand the customer, almost our
Mhm.
customer, basically. So just to give you a little bit more background on Amped Asia, right?
Mhm.
We kind of cover Asian American stories, but we do it in a more edgier way. We have a lot of stories that might not be covered by sort of like the more politically correct media out there, which is most of Asian American media.
Yeah.
And like you saw, we just had an episode with a friend of mine, an influencer who got wrapped up in the world of EDM and fell into drug addiction and some crazy stuff. So it's just stuff like that that we cover. Um, yeah, and then it's pretty interesting,
Yeah.
the whole thing.
So what exactly is the message behind Amped Asia? Like
Yeah.
why to do this with like, the edgy content with the, trying to share these stories, things like that.
Right.
What is
Well, to me, it just began as a hobby. Like when it first started, it was all about getting more eyeballs to different types of Asian stories.
Mhm.
And we wanted to do something a little edgier. Like I was kind of inspired by like Vice. I don't know if you
Okay.
know of Vice,
Yes, yes, of
but
course.
I was inspired by them. I was inspired by like other types of magazines. And so I just wanted to do something that was out of the norm and kind of showed Asians not as like just the cookie cutter, really studious type, and
The
kind of just
mom.
show like other things,
Yeah.
like whether it's like influencers, whether it's like models or whatever, whether it's like dating content, um, or even like editorials that have a various slants to them.
Mhm.
So it's just, we just wanted to do something a little bit unique and different.
I
So,
love that, and I think it's really
mhm,
great because I mean, like, similarly, the reason I started this show was to be able to share, stories and experiences and things that people don't necessarily have access to
right.
normally. So like, just like, I mean, like you said with your most recent guest, Chanel Christine, I believe her name
Yeah.
was. Just like those stories, because I feel like a lot of times when you see them in like the headlines and you see them, in like the interest pieces in magazines, like you feel really it's easy to be detached from it
Hmm.
and to like to not and to just like see it as a story and not see it as like, no, like this is a human being that actually experienced this and this could
Right.
happen to anyone.
Hmm.
and and
100%.
and I think it's so important to be able to have these conversations and share them and to show people, like, just the humanity behind these
Yeah.
things, where it's like, again, it's not just a story, like these are actual human people that are going through these things.
Definitely, definitely. And then also it's just the stories that we do are pretty interesting, right? So it's just with the more interesting it is, the more views you get. So so I'll
Yeah.
tell you, like our most viewed article was like about this like Asian male porn star.
Oh.
And who basically he was tired of like the Asian men getting like the small dick jokes.
Mm-hmm.
And so he created a whole network of like Asian male porn stars. And so that got a huge amount of interest actually.
Okay.
So yeah. Does that vibe with your audience content? I'm sorry, I don't know.
No, I
I
mean,
don't know.
like,
Are you if you're PG, you're very PG.
no, no, definitely not.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
the whole idea is like, having these conversations and these stories,
Yeah.
again, like to give it to be able to have these conversations and share it with people who wouldn't know to have the conversation, who wouldn't know that these are conversations that happen.
Right.
For instance, like actually I'm talking to someone tomorrow, and she's a dating coach, and we're going to talk about she calls herself a dating coach for nerds, but she also does like BDSM, like navigating people through BDSM relationships, things like that. So
Interesting.
like I'm really excited for that conversation because it's like, and it has nothing to do with me being interested in it. It's more like it's something that a lot of people do go through, but I feel like most people don't know how to talk about it. They don't talk about it, and so
Hmm.
then and that drives the taboo of talking about it,
Hmm.
where it's actually like a very normal thing.
Gotcha.
Kind of like,
Gotcha.
Asian men having sex is a very normal thing.
Right. 100%. Very
And
normal.
yeah, exactly. And so yeah, like it's like my
Yeah.
my audience, it's not so much, I don't think my audience isn't coming to me for like PG content. They're just coming
Okay.
to see like what conversations I do have.
Totally. Yeah, because the Asian male porn star thing was kind of interesting, right? Because there's I don't know if you know this, but there's a big lack of Asian American men in porn.
I believe
So
it, yeah.
so it was I think that's the reason why that particular article went super viral is just
Hmm.
because everyone was like kind of like yes, to the whole thing that he was trying to do.
Yeah,
Just to like humanize Asians and like kind of stop with that stereotype, which is a really stupid stereotype. You know
it
what I
is.
mean?
I mean, like, is it like, this is, I don't know if this is opinion or not, but like, what do you
Hmm.
feel is the stigma? Because like I feel like, yes, there is that sort of stereotype that Asian men are, not well endowed, that they're
Hmm.
they're not manly. Like a lot of them, I mean, that's I think that's more what I hear is just like people don't view Asian men as masculine.
Right. Like, what do
And
I think about that?
yeah, or like, why do you
Well,
think, like, I mean, besides, like, just as far as the lack of representation goes, like, is it
right. Yeah,
like is
no, that's a huge factor, right? But I mean, it's all getting better now. As like I think within the last 3 or 4 years, it's gone immensely better.
mm-hmm.
So it's just there's so much more representation now. I don't know if you saw like the trailer for like the new Mortal Kombat movie, but it's like 80% Asian dudes. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's just like everything is there's more power now for Asians, which is good, especially Asian males, because there's like Bling Empire with like Kevin Kreider is my friend who I interviewed. Um
Mhm.
and then there's just with the internet, like more people are like mobilizing to like for the cause. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because like before there was no like central way for like Asian people to like communicate and like bring forth these issues.
Mhm.
But now it's just like there's so many people like kind of just being like, okay, this is stupid. We need to like stop. We need to like do something about this.
Yeah.
So it's just and then with the rise of certain directors and things like that who are now being like, okay, well, I want to put Asian guys in the role now. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So all of that is just contributing to like it being not as bad as it used to be.
Yeah, no,
So
for
yeah, for sure. And
sure.
then I think it's just everything, yeah, it's just over time, it's because I mean we've only been here for a few decades really.
Mhm.
So it's just over time things have gone way better. And right
Yeah,
now it's not even I don't even know if right now it's that much of an issue anymore. Although it's still an issue for sure, but it's just like I've noticed like for me specifically and other people that are Asian, like it's not really a big issue in terms of like the dating world anymore. You know what I
really?
mean? Yeah, like in terms of like you're not gonna get Asian or not, you're not gonna get that many girls saying, "Oh, I don't date Asian guys anymore," like to your face. Like
Mm,
before, that would be like like super common.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I'm curious about that because,
yeah.
like, as an Asian woman,
Hmm.
I can't tell you the number of times like I've been fetishized or I've been like
Right.
I get those really creepy questions on dating apps and things like that.
Yeah.
And so I don't necessarily know that much about like the men's side of things and
Hmm.
the things that they've had to experience or you've had to experience like as an Asian man, you're living in America. So
Yep.
yeah, and so on that topic, because I feel like your first episode was with Kevin Kreider,
Hmm.
who you guys talked about Asian masculinity and like and how like in just sort of like his work and what he was doing in that space.
Hmm.
And then your second episode was with a dating coach actually who helps a lot of Asian men.
Right.
And so I'm just curious, like what, because I feel like you really connected with those like on a personal level.
Hmm.
Because again, like and not even like in, not just in like the sense that maybe you've had like traumatic experiences, but like, just as an Asian male, like, obviously these are things that you inherently have had to go through at some point.
Right. So, I mean, before, I think as soon as like a few years ago, like there's still like girls saying like I remember we went out and then there's some random girl who's just like, "Oh, like don't Asians have small penises or something," like to my face or whatever. So
Oh,
it's just like very like ignorant stuff, right? Like even if that were true, like I'm not going to go up to like a black person and say like a negative stereotype to their face, you know what I mean?
right.
So it's just like it's just like they almost don't realize that like they almost feel like Asians are very bullyable in a way. You know what I mean? Like we're just like
Right.
we're just like, okay, we can bully you without there being any repercussions,
Yeah.
right?
I think, like,
So I mean, there just needs. I mean, but to be honest, though, that wasn't a big deal because I didn't like for me personally, like I was just like, okay, well, this girl's just ignorant, and I mean, but it's like now I think that's getting a lot better. Like I don't think I've gone that in like a few years, I would
mhm,
say. Right? Like or at least I don't think so. And then like in terms of like even talking to different girls, like there's way more girls that like Asian guys now. So
yeah,
it's just like they specifically like Asian guys.
okay.
So it's just completely changed now, I think. Um
And do you think that's more because of, or like do you think that could be credited towards like having better representation like
oh,
in media
100%.
and things like that?
Yeah, cuz I was like talking to this one Latina girl and then she was like we were just talking and literally she was like, "Oh, I love Bling Empire." You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then it was like and then there's girls that were like who are just like really into K-pop and stuff like that.
Yes.
Um, and so it's just like a lot of different media and representation is just helping. It's really like what it is. It's like it's helping like humanize Asian guys in a way, so that it's just not like Asian men aren't seen as like super foreign. which I think is like one of the issues that we were facing, right? Like people just didn't know what an Asian guy really was. Like they only saw like us in like friggin' Hangover, where Ken Jeong like shows his penis or whatever, right? And
Oh,
then
God.
they're like, oh,
I
that's
totally
that's
forgot about that day. You're putting the image back in my head.
I know. It's just, they're like that was like their biggest like impression of what an Asian guy was.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
like funny accents, like just
Right.
nice things like that. Like those things that are like, I feel like there are things that there's like, there's overt and covert racism and
Mm-hmm.
stereotypes are a lot of times very covert. And so, yeah.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And so do you want me to go more into that or no?
yeah, no, go for it.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, I think for most Asian men, there's a certain subset of Asian men right now who do still have trouble with dating, and I mean, there's a good amount of them, right? And a lot of it is really like from what I've noticed, right? This is just my opinion. Is it's a more of a self-defeating attitude that they have. So if you try and you actually like are getting your life together, like it's usually not a problem. Like dating's usually not a problem. Unless you're in like a really weird city or something. But if you're like in a metropolitan city, you have your shit together, like dating's not going to be a problem for you, even if you're Asian. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just you need to man up. Like I know like there's this guy and I don't know this guy personally, but it's from the dating coach that I interviewed. And he
Mm-hmm.
was like a 5'3" Asian dude, right?
Okay.
And he's like an absolute killer with women. You know what I mean? So it's just like, okay, he works way harder than the average guy for sure, right? He's got money, he's got, like he's aggressive, aggressive in like not in a bad way, but like he's like he goes after what he wants basically is what I'm trying to say. And he's killing it. So it's just how much like if you have these disadvantages, like how much are you willing to, put in the effort to overcome them? And if you aren't willing to do that, then you're not going to succeed. So,
So I'm I'm curious because we've been talking a lot about representation, how that's
mhm,
helping. But I feel like there's also at least like for Asian women, I
mhm,
know that family dynamics also have a lot to do with the things that kind of, I mean the whole model minority thing that sort of has been the narrative, and it's being brought up a lot now. I feel like there's this idea that, or there's like with like the way like family dynamics are in Asian families, I feel like that also can contribute to it.
mhm,
Because I mean, like I know my dad always told me like to keep my head down,
mhm,
because it's just like you don't want to put a target on your back and things like that, and I'm doing the exact opposite of that. I'm putting myself out there in a way that I'm people can literally see my face and hear my voice, and it's I'm essentially a public figure. It's kind of what I'm building towards. But
mhm,
like I feel like at least like before I started doing this, like I was shy, not because I wanted to be, but because I was like told I needed to be.
mhm.
And
Yeah.
so I just
Well,
wanted.
yeah, so my opinion on that is like, okay, you're an adult, not you specifically, but the people, right? Like they're like people are a little bit too worried about what like their parents think. Like I understand like that's a little part of it, but like you're your own person, right? Like I've never understood why people would let like their parents completely control them, like when they're like in their 20s.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like if your parents are still providing for you, maybe like that's a huge problem because they have to pay for your rent or whatever, but you have to get out of that. Like you have to support yourself essentially. And as
Mm-hmm.
long as you're not doing like anything that's like super terrible, like there's no problem with it. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can't like for you, you're just doing a podcast, right? It's not like
Yeah.
you're doing anything, like I've interviewed like a girl who like literally was doing like porn. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So, and then even she was like, fuck it, I'm still gonna do it. Or she was doing OnlyFans or whatever, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. No, and like
Um,
yeah. I was
so
actually
it's just like you have to be your own person and start, doing you I mean, you're an adult, you can control yourself, and like that's the mindset that every Asian needs to adopt now. Because your parents are honestly they are smart and they're a little bit older, but the generation gap is massive at this point.
yes.
It depends on if you're an immigrant or not, but like the generation gap is so massive. Like you can't let like what your parents think is right for you from 20, 30 years ago to affect your life today.
Yeah,
You know?
I think that actually that stretches further than just Asians. Like
Mm,
that's a lot of people. Like there definitely is like again like a generation gap between like we're living in vastly different worlds than our
right.
parents. Like just with
100%.
technology and like access and things like that. Like it's the 9 to 5 is no longer necessary.
Hmm.
And like and those things and that's again like I don't think I
Yeah.
think that's cross culture. That has very little to do with race. Like that's just in general.
And then we were like, me and my friends were talking about like, oh, what is it going to be for our kids? You know what I mean? Because the generation gap is going to be long, or it's going to be big for our kids too. And like, we were thinking like, okay, our kids are probably going to be like, you know how there's like all these like, let's talk about like gay rights and like trans rights or whatever.
Mhm.
Our kids are going to be like, I want to marry a robot. Or like, I want to marry like my VR girlfriend or some shit.
Yeah.
And we'll be like, well, I don't know about that, son. I mean, I think you still should marry a real woman, but
Yeah, like you should
you know
have
what I
more
mean?
humans. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, but it's just like we're not going to be able to understand our kids. It's just a generation gap,
Yeah.
you know?
I think that's definitely I feel like parents now are like at least like my friends I feel like are really understanding towards that,
Mhm.
but we'll see. We'll see in 18 years like how
Oh,
it
your
all
friends like who have kids?
yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's going to be completely different.
Yeah.
The landscape is, we're going to have people on Mars by then.
I mean, like, yeah,
You
like
know?
my roommate actually works with NASA, and then so we've been celebrating the Mars rover
Yeah.
landing this week.
There you
uh,
go. There you
yeah,
go. So in 18 years, man, we could just be living the Wall-E life. You
I
know what I
know.
mean?
I mean, one of my best friends just had a baby, and she's like, they're white, but she's teaching her like they watch Chinese TV, they watch like Spanish TV, like she's trying to like expose her
Oh
to
yeah.
as many like languages as possible and things like that, which I don't think
Mhm.
was a thought in a lot of parents' minds
Mm.
when we were kids. I have faith for the future.
Oh
I'll put
yeah.
it that way.
Yeah, I mean, there's just way more knowledge out there. So hopefully, because a lot of the things that our parents taught us weren't even right. Weren't even right to succeed in a Western society. Like all the
Right,
stuff that we just talked about, like don't be a leader, just be humble. Like stand in with the crowd, like stuff like that. Like we found out that all that stuff doesn't help you in the Western world.
right,
You know,
yeah,
so it's just like, okay, you're going to study, you're going to get good grades, you're going to try to get into Harvard, and then Harvard's going to be racist towards you. So, I mean, it's like, what are you
right,
trying to do? You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So,
Yeah. So, going back to your podcast,
mhm.
how are you using your platform to not just like break down the stigmas that we've been talking about, but to promote different ones? Like, are there different ones that you want to promote, or like
Different ones, what?
like
Like different.
stigma, stereotypes, whatever? Like, the image, like the Asian image. Like, is your podcast for Asians or is it for other people? Like,
Oh,
how?
yeah, no, it's for Asians for sure. Like,
Okay.
it's definitely targeted towards Asian Americans. In terms of like the stigmas, I haven't really thought of it like in that way. Like my whole goal with it is more, it's not really like I'm trying to break through and break down these stigmas. I think the goal of it was to like help Asians level up in life. Like that was like the whole mindset around it, right? But
Hmm.
at the same time, like I'm also doing like these random types of videos as well. So like I really like Joe Rogan, and
Hmm.
he has a lot of different stuff. Like he talks about just whatever he's interested in. And that's kind of like what I wanted to do too. So with that in mind, yeah, everything that I do is basically, it's related to Asians, yes, but then it's also what I'm just personally interested in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you have coming down the pipeline then? Like, can I get a little preview?
Yeah. No, I do. I have a really good episode. So you know how I was talking about the sex robots thing?
Yeah.
So that's actually like one of the next few episodes where I talked to a VR researcher who
Interesting.
is on the forefront of sort of like VR sex technology and predicting when you can get into VR and start, having realistic sex, basically.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's going to be in like 5 years, he said. Yeah.
Wow. I
5 to 10 years. So with how they do it is they have a haptic suit. Um, so what that means is like they wear a suit, and like whatever like digital thing presses, like you'll feel it in your arm. You know what I
oh,
mean? Yeah,
So it's completely VR. It's like
completely VR.
VR and AR
Like you
kind of.
can feel the entire thing basically. Like that's
Okay,
one of the things they're doing. And then the
interesting.
other one is the other way. There's two approaches that they're going with, and I'm revealing a lot on this show because this is like really good stuff, right?
Sure.
But there's two approaches. So one of the approaches is with the haptic suit, where like you can feel like let's say you're in VR and there's like a girl or whatever, and she like touches you on the face, like you can feel it on your face,
Hmm.
basically, right? And then the
Wow.
other one is they actually use a sex doll. I don't know if you
Okay.
ever seen one of those. They're kind of
Uh,
creepy.
the not the blow up ones, like the actual like
But
the.
yeah, they're like kind of realistic. But what the way they're gonna do that is they're gonna project the VR image onto the sex doll itself.
Oh wow.
So you don't have to wear a suit. You're having sex with a doll, but then you can see like a porn star or something in there instead.
Interesting.
So it's just like very yeah. So that's just stuff that I'm interested in, basically.
So, I'm curious.
Uh,
So, because your show is geared towards like an Asian audience,
yeah.
what is the message you're hoping to promote? Like, what is it you're trying to show this Asian audience? Like what the opportunities are out there, or like what is your reasoning for showing them these stories?
No, it's not really opportunities. Again, I think it's just all about like just interesting stories.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's not really about like, hey, this is an opportunity or like this is what it's interesting stories. I do want to have like some like informational content as well.
Okay.
So it's gonna be, for example, a dating episode, right? It's gonna be a hustle episode, let's say, like entrepreneurship,
Hmm.
right? It's all stuff that it's right now. It's really a random mix mash of things. So
Okay.
we'll kind of see where it goes. But
Yeah.
that's kind of like right now. It's just all about interesting topics.
Okay. I
Uh,
love it. That's
yeah,
great. So, how do people find you, your show, etc.? Like, where do we learn about Amped Asia and Kevin
yeah.
Tang?
So you can just go to ampdasia.com is my
Okay.
website.
All
Yeah, and
right.
then that'll be that. It'll have like the podcast episodes. It'll have our other articles as well.
Okay.
So yeah,
All right.
cool.
Anything else you'd like to share about you, the show, or Asian
Um,
stereotypes, or
let's see. Yeah, I mean, I think that covers it. I feel like was this everything I said appropriate for your show?
yeah, no, again, like
Okay, cool,
it,
cool, cool.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I know with certain Asian outlets, they're very like PG.
Well, my audience is actually not. My audience is actually not very like. My audience is very much like is very much like my friend group where we're all very diverse. Like I have a lot
Yeah,
of like
yeah,
Latino friends, a lot of white friends, I have a lot of black friends, like things like that. So like
yeah,
I'm lucky that I've been able to garner a very diverse audience, I feel
right.
like. And
Yeah.
so I don't feel like I don't feel like it's fair to really write anything off the table because
Mm-hmm.
then we're kind of like it goes against like what I'm trying to do.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I
But
mean, do you think as because do you have a mostly female audience?
not necessarily.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, cool.
Like, I mean, yes, there are a lot of, I mean, I've been, most of my guests have been female, but I think it's mostly because like females like to talk about this stuff,
Okay, like what stuff specifically, like representation and
like social justice,
social
representation.
justice? Okay, gotcha.
I mean, again, like I'm talking to a woman tomorrow about bondage and BDSM.
Oh, okay. Yeah, those
And
are all I feel like female friendly topics. Because I don't know of any men who like that actually. BDSM. Personally.
you'd be surprised.
Yeah, 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 for sure.
But then like
That's
there's
true.
also
It could be secret.
yeah. Well, and again, like, and that's kind of why I'm excited to have the conversation because I feel like there are conversations out there that
Yeah.
people either don't know how to have or like they don't know who to ask about them. And so
Mm-hmm.
like it's kind of that's the platform really trying to provide is to like, hey, like here's a conversation. And I know like a lot of people may not know who to ask or like how to have it. And let's have it.
Mm-hmm. Got
Yeah.
it. Yeah. 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 Definitely. I wonder how women feel about the whole sex VR sex thing. Because there's a lot of I think there's a lot of women who think that that's gonna like that's like they're like threatened by it almost in a way.
I
Do you
don't know
know
if
that
it's
perspective?
I don't know if it's so much like being threatened. It's that
Yeah.
I think it's more like because I feel like, I mean, as a woman,
Mm-hmm.
like when I have sex, it's usually like it's a much more like emotional thing. It's not just like physical.
Mm-hmm.
And so to have something that is purely physical
Yeah.
is, I mean, like, while they're, while obviously like that's great, and like, and
Yeah.
I'm not here to say like I don't do it, but
Right.
it's, when you're with someone, it's like it's usually not just about the physicality of it. So to have like that VR component where it's like it's purely physical, there's no emotional ties whatsoever,
Mm-hmm.
is, I think, like, it's not that it's difficult, it's just different. It's not something that most women seek out in those physical relationships.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think like with the whole VR like situation, it's definitely targeted towards men.
Mm-hmm.
And then but you also have to understand like a lot of men like they can't even get sex. So it's like it's
Right.
really targeted towards them. So
Right.
it's like it really helps them. So I mean, we talk about that. We talk in my episode with him. Like we talk about like the ramifications of like how is this going to affect like
Totally just-
relationships and stuff like
Yeah.
that, you know? And then
Yeah.
he's like, yeah, well, I mean, there's a large percentage of men who can't even get sex at all.
Yeah.
So it's like this is really targeted towards helping them experience, you know, a normal life.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
I can just,
I don't think it should be threatening at all. I think it's like pretty normal. And I
yeah,
think
with
and
that.
also the other thing I was gonna say is like I think for women, right? Like it's kind of like okay, well, this is just our opinion, right? But we were kind of thinking like, okay, if this is out there, your man is gonna be less likely to cheat on you. You know what I mean? Your man's not gonna guys aren't gonna be going out of their way to like cheat on you if like they can just like use this like VR machine.
I mean, I don't know about
Yeah.
that either, but
That's true. Maybe
it's
not. Maybe not.
like, again, like I feel like, at least like with what I know, like with what I know of, like, other people's like sex lives and things like that, it's like, again, like women especially tend to fall more on like wanting the social aspect of it, not just like the physical aspect of it. So that's just like,
Oh, 100%. No, I agree with that.
and I think that in itself is an interesting conversation of like, what are the needs for men versus women.
hmm
So yeah.
Well, there's a replacement for that soon in VR too. You can
Yeah.
have your VR boyfriend that is an AI, and he'll get your
Oh yeah, for
emotions all
sure.
right.
I mean, they kind of do that already. There's those like,
Yeah.
I've seen them pop up. They're like interactive stories or whatever, and you have to like, it's like a choose your own adventure.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
like,
women like that stuff, huh? The choose your
yeah.
adventure stuff.
But I mean, because it's like you're kind of like you're playing for like a romance.
Right, right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
How cool would that be if you can see it in like 3D? You're choosing your own adventure, but it's in 3D.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, like I
Yeah.
can definitely see where it comes in handy with like people
Yeah.
that have like high social anxieties.
Right. 100%. That's the huge like part of
Uh,
it. Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
hmm
But okay, so thank you so much. I don't know if
Yeah.
like want to cover anything else, but this was great.
No,
Uh,
I think that covers it. Unless you have any other questions,
um,
I'm an open book. So if you want to
you're
ask
not-
anything,
I can't think of anything right now, but I definitely I want to like maybe touch base again with you later on and like
okay.
see like a kind of like a touch base on like how our various shows are going.
Oh yeah, for sure, definitely.
Yeah, do like a mid-year check-in or
Yeah.
something.
Do you are you mostly on Apple Podcasts or like do you do YouTube or what's your platform?
I'm doing YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram right now.
Okay.
I'm like, I haven't quite entered in the podcast space because I thought it was important to be able to show faces.
Right.
Because I'm asking a lot of people to be very vulnerable in their conversations and things like
Oh
that. And
yeah.
so I thought it was important to just like to be able to show like fully what the conversation was.
Mm-hmm.
I'm exploring that right now because I feel like a lot of people are asking me that. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Gotcha. Gotcha. Cool.
yeah,
Sounds good. Yeah, we're doing mostly YouTube now. Like
okay,
YouTube is where we get like most of our views, I would say.
yeah.
Yeah.
Most of mine are on IGTV actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
it's really
That's
interesting.
yeah, I didn't know that was like a big thing for podcasts.
I didn't know either.
Yeah.
It's just I just put it on all three, and like just
Yeah.
like performing wise, like my Facebook and my IG are definitely outdoing my YouTube by a lot.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Gotcha.
then I think
Gotcha.
it's also because like people people will message me after, and it's like it's easier to message me directly on things like Facebook and IG. Like they'll just like
Mm-hmm.
send me a DM like, oh my God, I didn't know this, or like, wait, like I love that you had this conversation, and then like it's in like
Mm.
it's like and they just share through there.
Right.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. I think for us it was like YouTube just seemed like we got like a lot of video suggested. So that was good. The
Yeah, that's
algorithm
great.
helped to like suggest stuff, so we got views from that.
Yeah, that's
But
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
cool. And also the embed feature, because we were able
Yeah.
to embed stuff. So it's good.
Yes, definitely.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you so
All right.
much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing how you edit it and stuff. So
Yeah. We'll talk soon.
all right, cool. All
All
right,
right.
later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much to Kevin for stopping by and chatting with me today. As he mentioned in the episode, you can catch him at ampedasia.com, which is his online magazine, or you can look up Kevin Tang with Amped Asia on YouTube. Thank you so much for coming by, and I can't wait to sit with you again next week. Cheers.